Welcome, friends. Thank you so much for coming to our first official OBM Roundtable. And we are going to really just be spending this time talking a little bit about why we became OBMs, where we are now, what the journey has been like for us, so that those listening who have perhaps found this video might be inspired and called to follow a similar path as an online business manager, or really as any kind of online service professional, right? Because the goal here is to help people be empowered to do different things against the grain of what we are all kind of taught to do growing up, which is to become a doctor, lawyer, or have some kind of profession. So we're going to take some time here to go around the room and see when everybody became an OBM and what our background was like before that, because I think that's really interesting to our listeners to kind of get a feeling of what we all did, because we all come from really different, varying backgrounds in corporate. Lenica, do you want to start?
Sure. So I came from a corporate background in different fields. So started in admin to customer service, through team leadership and management, all the way up to project management. And after leaving that role, I started my business in 2018, mid-2018, and I have been running my business ever since, serving actually both online and offline businesses, but working online with them, serving them through my online businesses.
Nice.
Yeah.
Gillian.
Hi. Well, I'm relatively new to the OBM world. I'm officially at my 1-year mark, because I announced my business in September of 2021, but I had started working with a client, a couple of clients, I guess, previous to that in about May. And previous to that, I was 21 years at the same company,
Wow.
Which initially when I started was a traditional advertising agency, and when I ended, I was the director of operations, and it was a outdoor media sales company. And we were a COVID casualty, unfortunately. We were too tightly tied to the travel industry. So unfortunately, but it ended up being a blessing in disguise, because, I wasn't, loving the work anymore. I loved the people I worked with, but I wasn't loving the work anymore. And I discovered the OBM word. I didn't even know what an OBM was, and I found it through your groups, and I looked into it and I thought, oh, I can totally do this, right?
Wait a second,
I totally do this. So I've been doing that for a little over a year, and I love it. I love the flexibility. I love the freedom. I haven't niched or anything, so I'm still kind of like seeing what seeing what I really like to do, like the variety, and then figuring out what I like best. So next step is building a team.
Yes. Kelly, you also have a similar background.
I do, yeah. So I started out as a recreation director and human resource manager, and then from there started out kind of going into the social media management world as kind of like a part-time around the full-time work that I was doing. And then after about like a year and a half, I started to get more clients, and I was like, okay, well, I kind of had to make that career decision, what I wanted to do down the road. And so I decided to kind of take that on full time, and then found the VA world and started to help clients with other things other than social media management. And from there, I found OBM World. And then I realized that what I was doing as a VA also translated into like what the role of an OBM actually was. So I decided to kind of see what this was, make the transition and officially, I guess, have the title as an OBM instead of a VA.
Eben, tell us about your story.
So I had 13 years in banking and operations management. Actually left on my 13th year anniversary-ish.
Wow.
But I started my business before I left. I started from the free mama world as a VA, did some bookkeeping. And a friend saw something in me that I didn't notice, and she was like, I need to hire you to be my OBM mom. I have no idea what I'm doing. And then thank God Sarah was doing your challenge. I think that's what it was.
The Confident OBM challenge.
Yes, yep. And I won the accelerator, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. This is what I needed all of this time. So, and I just took it from there.
I love that. Yeah, that's amazing. So I think it's really important to mention here that, we all have different definitions of success. And when we come into this world, it's usually for reasons, like for myself particularly, it was about the freedom and flexibility to be a mom and juggle it with, still making an income. Gillian, what would you say is your definition of success as an online business manager?
Well, if you'd asked me that a few years ago, it would be, like what my salary was, what my title was, right? That's how I define success through a job, because, how else do you define success when you're employed, really, right? So now that I'm on my own, it's more like, am I happy? Am I enjoying what I'm doing? Do I still want to keep doing this? And then, am I making ends meet? First, making ends meet, and then exceeding that, right? Like
it's not a hobby, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's not, obviously there's money aspects to it, but it's no longer all about the money.
Right.
It's satisfaction. It's maintaining that flexibility, and same reasons. I've got a young child as well, so I love the flexibility aspect of that, and being like, taking a whole day to do something like this.
So it sounds to me that you can consider yourself as being extremely successful because you're checking all those boxes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not yet hitting the financial milestones that I want to, but that's just a matter of time.
Right, that's great. So, Kelly, what's your definition of success?
I'm very similar to what Gillian said. I think that it's not all about salary. I used to think that it was in climbing kind of the ladder in the corporate industry, but now it's more so getting to choose who I work with and actually enjoying who you work with. Not that to say that previously I didn't enjoy working with the people I did, but like really being able to click with your clients and just enjoying the work that you do. And obviously like money does play a little bit of a factor into it, but it's not the end all be all.
Right.
I think it's finding something that you love to do, what the world needs from you, and does it make you happy?
Yeah, like providing a service. I was thinking about that too. It's like, I love making a difference for my clients.
Yeah.
Like in the corporate world, it's like, sure, if you're project management for somebody, a client might be like, oh yeah, great job, whatever, maybe every so often. But, I'm really finding that my clients are like, oh, thank God I found you. Or what am I ever going to do without you sort of situation.
It's kind of crossing boundaries there.
Yeah, I feed off that kind of energy. I like.
That's great. Yes. Lenica, what would you say to add to that?
So the main reason I got into business, freedom. Just even the mental freedom of not feeling tied to something that I felt like I had to do. It's more like I want to choose the life that I want to live. Right. That's basically it. And choosing the business and the clients and the team I work with is a part of that journey. So freedom is a big thing. And I really like the direct relationship I have with the CEOs, with the business owners, versus when I was in corporate.
Right.
Like I had a connection with like my VP or my director, but not like the top where I can help impact decisions to be made based on my experience, my expertise, and my observations, and really honing into what I've now owned as my sweet spot and working with the owners. So maybe similar to Gillian, where it's like you get to impact their decisions, their direction of their business, and it's helping your business too. So big thing for me is freedom. Freedom of choice is huge for me. And I think for me, money is a lagging motivator. I find like if I do things great, I love what I do, and I'm doing it, and people see that I do it, because I had a client that said, I can see that you like what you're doing. You know what I mean? The money follows.
What a great thing.
Yeah. To me, the money, like
versus being burnt out,
right? Burnt out and taking like short-term disability and stuff. So for me, money is the lagging motivator, because once I'm doing a great job and people are recognizing it, the money follows.
Yes.
Because that's where most of my business comes from, is referrals and
word
of mouth.
Right. Eben.
So I second all of that. Because yes, the freedom for time and financial reasons is amazing. Like we're in control of everything that we get from that. But something that came to mind is that like I decided to leave the corporate world because it was such a toxic environment that now and the work that I did was undervalued and underappreciated, and now it's the exact opposite.
Because this was at the bank, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a number.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
No pun intended.
and somebody else determined whether I was doing a good job. No, like I get to decide. My clients love it. Like that's just the best feeling in the world.
I love that your friend, and it's so funny because I often hear this, that, oh, my friend told me that I'd be a really great OBM, and then I found your world, I found the Confident OBM community, I joined the community, and then, you know, the ball was rolling after that. That must have been so interesting for you to have that kind of elicit this new business for you.
Yes, I think.
Do you think you would have ultimately ended up here as an OBM or in some sort of, you know, because obviously there's lots of other synonyms for being an online business manager. You have a director of ops, you have an integrator. I'm sure there are others that I can't think of right now. But do you think you would eventually fallen into this sort of managerial position for your clients?
Maybe. I don't know if I would have,
Indirectly.
because I would have, like, I never made this connection.
Yeah.
And I just felt like I was constantly spinning my wheels trying to find something. Because I'm a manifesting generator. I don't know if anybody follows human design, but I always love doing multiple things.
Same here.
And I get that in the OBM world. And I think that that's why I was like, oh, I'm a bookkeeper. Oh, I'm a VA. Oh,
Yeah.
I do social
And
media.
I don't fit into this box, and I can also change and evolve as this industry evolves.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if she never made that connection for me, I don't know if I would have even looked into the OBM world.
Interesting. We all have challenges. What would you say, Kelly,
Yes.
is your biggest challenge, or was your biggest challenge when you decided to maybe not even become an OBM,
Yeah.
but like even just shift into becoming an entrepreneur? You know, did you get pushback? What was the vibe?
Definitely mindset and comparing myself to others. Like when I started from the very beginning, I was comparing myself to people who were like 10 years experience, 5 years experience. And it's
Right.
like, why am I not there yet? But I've just started. And so it's like really grounding yourself in the present moment, where you're at and what you need to do to get to the next level.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'd say is just meeting people. Like instead of working from home, I found that was like a really big thing for me, is going out and meeting new people like we are today.
Yes.
Because especially like the last 2 years, I just like worked at home. And so I'm being such a people person, really love to meet new people and being able to go to events where like we're all like-minded and want to talk business and want to talk about like learning new things or personal development and all that. So I think that transition from being in a workplace where you have to talk to people all day to going home and working for yourself, which is amazing in itself. But that was just definitely a difficult transition to make during that time.
You mentioned to me that you had a little bit of pushback from your friends.
I did.
Can we talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So a lot of my friends are like government workers. They wanted more stability in their job. And so they wanted the best for me. And they thought that that's what success looked like for them, was going the government route, because it was a very secure job. And so for me, it just wasn't something that I wanted to do right from the get-go. It just didn't seem like something that was really meant for me. And then I kept on kind of following my gut.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit difficult, but like at the same time, you have to do what's best for what you think is
yourself.
best for you, and at the end of the day, you will figure it out.
Yeah. Eben, did you have any pushback from your family, or challenges, generally speaking? Because you were already sort of dabbling in the online space.
I don't think I had any pushback per se. It was
Because you have older kids at that point. Was that difficult financially for you to kind of be like, okay, I'm pulling the plug on, you know, my banking job? And
So no, because now that I think back, like when I decided to start a business, I set a plan in place and it worked out perfectly to the T, which was insane. Now that I look back, like, oh my God, it worked out exactly how I planned it.
Isn't it amazing how that happens? Even today, can we just say? It just worked out very nicely.
It did. I would say the biggest challenge was probably also mindset, because being in the banking world, I saw a lot of small business owners coming in.
Oh, struggling.
And financially, they were just not making it. And I'm like, I'm never going to start it.
That's so
Why would I
interesting.
do that?
That's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
They're working so hard and they have nothing to show for it.
And now you're kind of in that boat, working hard, but you feel like you've got something to show for it?
Yes, I'm still not where I want to be, but I know,
You're on the path.
like, it's self-protection, right? Like,
right.
I know exactly why I'm not where I'm at. Like, so it's like last night I did a lot of mindset work. I was like, it's time to cut your shit and show up and do what you're supposed to be doing.
Exactly. Yeah. Gillian, what challenges did you experience?
Well,
I decided to come out today.
I think, you know, similar is sort of like fear was one thing, because 21 years at the same company.
Yeah.
I was like,
And working in corporate.
yeah, I was like, never, you know, and knowing, because our president was the owner, and we were a small business, the whole time. The challenges that he faced running the business. I thought, oh, geez, I don't think I could ever do that.
Right.
And then I was just like, oh, forget it. I just was not motivated to apply to jobs, and I didn't even know what kind of a job I should be applying for. I thought I wanted to be like, director of marketing, but my, most recent experience was at operations. I was like, oh, what do I do?
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely was fear. And
Because there's a lot of skills that you need to know as an OBM.
I didn't feel that I didn't have like skills or anything like that. It was more just going out on my own and not having the security of a regular paycheck, benefits, because my husband didn't have benefits, but then he subsequently got a job with benefits, so yay. That was mostly it. And I have to say, like, everyone was really supportive. Like, my husband was like, you're gonna kill this, like, do it, like, come on. And my mother was like, you need money. So I was like, okay, let's do it. So yeah.
Lenica, what challenges did you face?
I got family support, so
Good.
that wasn't the thing. It was my own
Like limiting belief?
belief in my expertise.
Oh. Even with all of your PMP certificates and all of that
Yeah.
stuff to toe?
Here's the thing, like,
That's so interesting.
yeah, I know. I just think about that when you were asking everybody. What it was is there's certain things that I felt like I needed to have the tangible backing of schooling or whatever. And that's probably why some of the times I went to do courses and stuff. Not that they're not beneficial, they very are, but there's natural intuitions, there's natural things we have that sometimes I'm even now sitting in that where I give feedback while I'm consulting with someone, and I just know. I didn't have it from like, oh, I learned it here or I had this.
Right.
I just know, like,
'Cause
if
it's
you go this
intuitive.
path,
Right.
this is where it's going to lead you, because I just know, and I didn't own that piece of my expertise. I felt like I had to back it up with things,
Yes.
and so I went in allowing other people's feedback impact how I do things, impact how I ran my business, impact, like, when I'm like, no, this is where I want to go, like, you know what I mean? Some people tried to dissuade me from owning an agency because it's tough, and I'm like,
Really?
everything's tough.
Everything's tough.
Making money is hard.
It is tough.
Making no money is hard. You just
Right.
choose your heart,
Right.
right?
Boom.
So it's just owning my own expertise and my own intuition,
Yeah.
because similar to Gillian, because of coming from corporate, I had a company backing me. So even if I had those expertise and I was running projects and I was doing all that stuff, if something happened, I had the backing of a company. And that was my mentality versus I'm the company.
Yeah.
I'm the backing of the company. So if something happened, I saw it, I'm at fault, or I'm like, I took it as a negative, where I was like, no, I own everything now. I own the decisions, I own if it went good or if it went bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had to come around to kind of I come with this experience, I'm building on it, and some things I just know I don't need additional outside forces.
So you're, out of all of us here, you and I have probably been the OBMs the longest. When would you say that feeling started to sort of fall to the wayside? Like, because it sounds like a pretty recent, in the last few years,
Maybe
would
about
you say?
over a year, just in the past year.
Huh.
It was a sliding scale,
Yeah.
let's put it that way.
Okay.
The first year,
Yeah.
I was just one, I took anybody that wanted to work with me because one, it was somewhat of a confidence booster. Aside from the financial aspect,
Right.
It was, oh, you want to work with me? I just took you,
Right.
and without thinking, what do I want?
Right.
And is
And
this
this a
where I
good
want to
fit?
go? Right. So it was more of maybe I was seeking validation. I don't have words to it, but that's maybe what it was. And then every time they complimented me or they said something, I was like, oh, really? Whereas now I'm like, no, I know this. It's not a cocky thing, but I'm like, I really am a lot more confident in what I do, what I deliver, what I say to when I say it. And if I make a mistake too, because we will always make mistakes, I own it a lot more than beating up myself. You know, I think for me, it's the past year, maybe year and a half, where things are, I feel like things are falling.
Yeah, because I know that I have, you and I have been quite interconnected, and you're a mentor in our OBM school, and watching your agency journey to me has been so beautiful because you've been doing it really eloquently in the sense of slowly and not, I remember when I started my own agency, it was like, felt a little bit more messy. So you've had that team growth aspect and you've been able to bring on really solid team members. How has team impacted the way you run your OBM business?
I get to show up in my best self because now I let them show up in their best self. Because one, I guess, mantra I have now is just because I can doesn't mean I should. I have a lot of experience. I've done customer service, I've done admin, I've done project management. And just because I can, and I used to do that for clients, like I said, I took on almost anybody that wanted to work with me and pay me, and anything that they wanted me to do, right? Even if I was calling myself an OBM, I was doing like VA type, I was doing like everything, right? And I was like, oh, I could do that for you. And I just realized,
or I can find that person to do that for you.
Well, that's where I'm at now. Where before I just used to do the thing. I used to be like, that was part of my maybe it's imposter syndrome because I didn't believe that I had all the things. And so working with team, I think that's the other thing I like about agency. I really love helping develop people to be their best self. Like that's a huge thing for me.
That's incredible.
Like I love it. And that's what I like with my clients.
What a huge motivator.
Yeah, I like that with my clients, is helping them get their business to the best level that it can be, and where I can help, I help. So having my team in their area of expertise leaves me now the space to help my clients in their area. You know what I mean? So having the team, just because I can do it, and I've had to step back, like I've had to slap my hand to not go into things. Yeah, like my assistant right now, like she has to slap I give her permission to virtually slap my hand if I'm going and doing things that she should be doing.
Actual hand slap.
Yeah, I love developing people to their best abilities because there's a saying, I don't remember where I heard it from. If you treat your team like gold, they'll treat your clients like platinum. Right? Yeah, so it's big for me, and I love like showing up in my best 2%. Like that 2% produces like 80% of the results. So I think if any of us sit in that area that is that 2%, and that's like that golden 1 to 2%, the results that you would emit would far surpass trying to do everything.
Would you say that you're financially where you want to be in your business?
Personally, no. Short answer is no. Like I that's the other thing I have to own is my money mindset. No. I know where I want to go. Like I know for me and my business, I'm growing an organization.
Right.
Like I'm going for a bigger team.
Right.
Because I know how I want to serve, I know how I want to lead. So no. No.
So there's more there that you want to do financially.
Yeah.
Would you say that you are in a good place? Because it's obviously, we had talked about this at the beginning, it's not all financial, right? You have a team. Do you feel fulfilled as an OBM?
I feel more fulfilled. I think there's still room for me personally.
Yes.
I think there's always room.
There's
like,
always,
it's like there's always
there's
like
room.
I think the moment I get to the pinnacle, it's time to potentially do something else. So I'm way more fulfilled than I was last year, way more fulfilled than I was the year before. Like, so it's growing, let's put it that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Way more in my skin than probably ever.
Can I just say, everything you just said there was like pure gold.
Oh really?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I think that it's so important to remind anybody who finds this video that anybody can do this, that what I want to highlight here is that we all start in our own way, and we all have really unique qualities that bring us to being an OBM and any kind of entrepreneur.
Yeah.
What do you think is your most resilient quality, Eben, as an OBM?
Okay. Define that for me, please.
Well, what do you think is the best quality that you bring to the table for your clients?
I would
Or that
say-
makes you successful as an
I'm
OBM?
gonna say 100% it's my personality.
Mm.
Because I feel like in reality, anybody could find someone to do the work. But that someone isn't going to have my brain, have my personality, say the things that I say the way that I say them. So I find that that's the way I shine. But that's also
Well, it's always a double-edged sword.
my
isn't it?
weakness, right? Like, because I do things for my clients that, to me, I was like, what was special about that? Like, I don't see
And
it.
that's your
sometimes.
sweet spot right there. The fact that I find like everybody like when it's not a big deal for you and somebody's like praising it, that's the sweet spot right there. That's where.
But then how, like, because I've been told multiple times, like, you see things that other people don't see.
Mm.
I don't know how to
So
take.
it's more than just your personality.
I don't know how to take that and turn it into something to sell.
Strategy.
But
Yes.
I don't like, because it's strategy. I'm like if I was to get on a call with somebody, I would like to prepare.
Right.
I don't know how to do that. Like, I don't, like, it comes out in the conversation.
Well, that's it.
It's the questions.
That's it, right? You can't, you know.
Yeah, it's the questions. It's drawing them out.
Yeah, I find the best coaches I've ever had, and I'm learning this, ask the most questions. They don't come with the answers.
Right. Because
The
the
best,
consultants
like,
have those
yeah.
answers.
So like when I do strategy, I have like, I don't know how many questions I have, because from that so just draw on that. Like, I find the best coaches don't hesitate to ask questions. Like, I'm even saying that when we had Q&A sessions at the OBM school, I'm like, ask questions. You do not know everything. Ask questions. It's sometimes in asking the questions, you may not find the answer, but you'll be able to guide your client to the answer. So we don't have to come with the answers, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's probably your sweet spot, is your strategy, the way you pull things out of people. That's what I'm feeling from you, at least. Like,
Yeah, you're probably right, but
now you're thinking
doubt
how
is
to
coming
market it.
in, right? Like,
It will.
strategy is like, to me,
Well, it's also
strategy-
the anxiety of when you're just talking to that new person, and
yeah, like the word strategy scares the crap out of me.
It- yeah.
that's a good sign,
It
though,
would.
right? That's you should lean into that fear.
Yeah.
I think that fear is an indicator that, you know, we're going a little bit out of our comfort zone, and that sort of brings me into my next question. Gillian, this one's for you. What would you say to somebody who is wanting to kind of venture into this space? Because fear is a big piece, right? You had a big level of fear.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Well, I would say, you know, it's mindset work. You know, you have to sort of work through it. And I think, you know, in our previous videos, you have to starve fear by making quick decisions.
Yeah.
So you don't just keep, I don't know.
That's interesting.
And then, you know, I'm a researcher. Like, this is what I do. I
I
do
think
a
that's
lot
like a
of,
key
you know, I very
key characteristic, guys.
or
But, you know,
previously, I rarely, you know, would just make a decision. It was like, oh, well, I'll think about that and I'll go back to it and I'll bookmark it, or, you know, whatever. But now it's kind of like, I don't have time for that. It's like, make the decision, move on.
Yeah.
But
Deal with the
also,
repercussions.
yeah,
Messy
you know,
action.
and like that's,
Messy action. Yes,
Yeah, that's
I like
just
that.
my, on my
taking-
laptop.
yeah, just taking action, period, right? So the other thing I was going to say, and somebody said this to me when I was in a position of like, oh, I don't know what I want to do. They said, it was simple, lean on your strengths. And I thought, well,
Simple, easier said than
It
done.
is.
yeah, because sometimes you
We
don't
always know
realize
what
what
your
your strengths are.
So this is one of the things that I personally see with OBMs is like, this is my strength, so I'm going to put that here, I'm going to shelf it, and I'm going to start with this thing over here that's like foreign and scary and different to me, because I feel like I need to struggle in order to sort of cruise afterwards. So
Yeah, like I remember having a conversation with somebody who was like dabbling in web design. I said, do you have any experience, any background in web design or web building? No. Well, then why?
Right. Yeah, why
Like,
that? Why not?
Yeah,
something
like
that
there
you
are people
love?
that do that, you know, you subcontract that or whatever. Like, you don't need to do that. Like, what is your sweet spot?
Right.
And, you know, I've always been in marketing. So it was kind of, to me, it had to be marketing related, but I really love, and I shine in the operations end as well. I mean, I created my first SOP or process binder in late 1999, and it got used. I was a temp, and I got used for probably 5 to 8 years.
There's probably somebody sitting in an office right now.
Yeah.
That's like, wow,
I mean, it was
gold.
It was with Imperial Oil, so I mean, there was a high level of technology there in the office department.
Right.
So it was probably a lot of, I can't even remember, it was a bunch of printouts and me writing in it and stuff as well. I heard from the person I worked with every year on my birthday, and he's like, we're still using your binder.
Oh, that's so
We're
funny.
still using your binder. So when that person said to me, like, lean on your strengths, I'm like, well, you know, like operationally, like that wasn't even my job at my company. I was like a project manager, I was an account manager. And I dealt with the clients and all the projects, but then it was like I became the de facto office manager because we were small, didn't have one.
Mhm.
Then I became the bookkeeper because it was a recession and our bookkeeper left, and I was like, oh, that's suddenly my job too.
Oh, wow.
And just everything. So yeah,
This just has me thinking, because in banking, we have a process and procedures like online portal. And I was always the go-to, like, because no one wanted to read that thing because it was horrible. Like, the steps were, it was awful. So, like, just again, another reminder as to why this is where I'm supposed to be is because I was, we called it pro, but like I was the process and procedures person. Like, if somebody needed to know how to do something,
They'd go to
and
you.
I'm the enforcer, right? Like, you did that wrong and here's why. Like, let me show you.
Huh?
I'm actually going to challenge this a little bit in the sense of like, we hear lean on our strengths. I think figuring out what they are is key. But also I've seen where I've heard people talk about their experience. And there's a difference between your experience and your strengths. Just because you have experience in something does not necessarily mean it's your strength or your passion.
Yeah.
Right? Like I've talked to people where they had experience in bookkeeping, you know, not to rain on it, but their real strength was organization, team leadership, strategy, but they went into bookkeeping because they had experience in it, right? So sometimes your experience does not necessarily mean that's your strength.
It sort of hinders you.
So
It can
true.
hinder you. So I'm gonna challenge it, like we lean on our strengths, make sure like we figure out what those strengths are, because sometimes within the experience, there's a strength in there. You know what I mean? Like I like project management, but what I had to pull out from it is I actually like the strategy of building the project. I don't really want to manage the project. Like I've done it,
Right.
but I really like
You could do it.
could do it. Exactly. Just because I can doesn't mean I should, right? So that's where I kind of had to go look at all the experience I had, because I could have gone into so many different areas from my experience, but where did my passion and my strength lie, right? Because there's core pieces within that. So I would just say, don't think your experience is your strength just because you've been doing something for so long. There's something in there that's core. So I'll challenge that a little bit.
and sometimes it takes another person, like your
Right,
friend,
exactly.
to pull it
to
out.
point it out,
Yeah.
because you're like, what, you know, what is my strength? I don't know, like I do all these things, what's one of my best at? And then somebody else will be like, oh, obviously it's this.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
You're like,
Something
really?
in
Because
that
I'm going to say it
experience.
again, I say this every day, you can't see the label from inside the bottle.
Yeah.
You really, it's a spicy one. But it's so true. You know, when you've been in it, or you've been sort of indoctrinated into this, I work at the bank, I'm a project manager, or I'm in corporate, and I have all of these things, these credentials, and this sort of clout from being in the company for 20 some odd years. And now I'm sort of looking now at my experience, and just because I've been told to do these things in corporate, it doesn't necessarily line up. So Kelly, what would be advice to the person who is like, I don't know what my experience is?
Oh my gosh. First of all, I would say, I mean, when you're first starting out, you're going to have a lot of doubts and fears about what you're going to feel lost, or at least I did when I first started, and just not knowing where to start. And so talk to your friends, talk to your family, and really ask them what are the 3 traits that they see in you. And I would say, like, go ask your best friend, go ask your parents, go ask your siblings, and just ask them, like, what are the 3 traits that you see in me, or what do you think my strengths are? And it's gonna feel weird because I was told to do this myself at this group, I guess business mentorship, and I couldn't say what my strengths were. I didn't know. And they had said, they're like, if you feel comfortable, even if you feel uncomfortable doing it, it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel weird to ask people what they think of you or what your strengths are, and really getting that feedback. You're like, oh my gosh, like I didn't see that in myself. Kind of like what you had said about your friend telling you about OBM. and you're going to realize that you have so many more qualities than you ever thought you would see in yourself.
Yeah, one question I got told to ask was when, like asking friends, family, when you think of my name, what would you come to me for? What's instantly when something happens, what's the first thing that my name comes up?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if there's a challenge, what are the challenges that when you think of it, my name is like the first thing that comes up? You know what I mean? Or like the go-to or to call or to Lenica will do that. You know what I mean? So
Lenica, if there's a problem, Lenica will know exactly what
it's like planning anything.
Yeah. Go to them, they're gonna line it all out.
Yeah, and sometimes it will say anything, but like it's like, okay, well what like you know what I mean? Like like sometimes there's things that something will happen and your name is probably one of the first names that come to mind for something. And so there's something in there. You know, about that too.
Did anyone get pushback from their family on starting this? Because that's so interesting. You go to your family and you're like, so what are my top traits? What would you come to me for? And they're like, well, why are you asking? You're like, well, because I want to start this thing, you know, online and this business. Was that scary for anybody experienced?
For me personally, I actually had my family was super supportive. So I didn't have any pushback.
That's good.
Which was amazing because I don't think I would have been able to make that switch. Or I probably would have, realistically, I probably would have still made it, but it just would have made it more difficult.
No, I didn't have pushback. My mom still doesn't really fully know what I
do.
My mom just knows that I'm able to pay the bills.
Yeah.
But
actually,
if
that's
I
so
was
true.
when I first started, she was the one that like, oh, you know, if you need help, like let me know. Kind of thing. But
my mom's still
she
doing
still
that.
can't really describe what I do. She just
That's
tells
so
people,
cute.
oh, she has her own business. I don't know what she does. She does her own business.
Yeah.
But I've not gotten.
She's killing it. You know.
I haven't gotten pushback.
Yeah.
Like from the immediate family. I got questions.
Yeah.
From what I would call from like a fear perspective, like, oh my gosh, isn't that scary? I'm like, not living to my full potential is actually more scary to me than this. You know what I mean? I asked myself the question, if I had 6 months to live, what would I really want to do? Or what would be like on my regret list?
Yeah.
And
is that like on your recurring task list? I ask myself.
You know what? I really should. I really probably should.
Great.
But that was the thing. Like one is like when I'm in a fork in the road.
You kind of keep it in check. You know, am I still on the right path?
What are the things that I would be really proud of that I've done or I'm doing? Do I have a regret list? You know what I mean? Like if I literally had tomorrow up to like next week to live, what's on my regret list? And if there's anything on there, then I need to attack it. Like I need to get it done, or you know.
It's a great question.
Books flight.
So like whatever it is.
We're coming with you.
Yeah. At least even if I'm on the path to doing it, like you know what I mean. To me, that's like still a mini success. So it probably should be a question you ask.
Yeah.
Like annually at least.
Annually, right? Or I mean, I guess it helps you
As
sort
a
of
life
stay on track. Am I on that right path? Do I need to do something to make myself happier? Because life is short.
Yeah, and it's okay to pivot or switch.
It is okay to pivot,
But
and evolve. I think it's more of an evolution.
Yeah.
And I do believe that in this kind of, not a new way of working, but in the way that we work, there is so much potential for evolving and bringing different things into the mix. And just the potential in this industry. And, you know, I mean, now we're sort of living in this post-COVID world now. And I do believe that most businesses have realized that if they don't have a, online leg or digital leg. And again, just to reiterate what we had mentioned at the beginning, it's not about working with online businesses. It's about working with any kind of business. But now businesses believe that they can have remote teams and they can, have these things, right? There is a lot of people watching this. Or if you're watching this and you're kind of getting into a space of the unknown, what would be the one piece of advice, Lenica, that you would give somebody who was like, I want to become an online business manager. What do I need to know that's going to help me be the best, or not be the best, be successful?
One thing.
Okay, two.
So if they're new to the world of online, what would they need to know to start on the path of being successful? So I said one thing. What would they need to know?
Or what would you tell them?
What would I tell them? They probably know a lot more than they think they know. I'm almost like very confident in saying that, and I don't even know everybody's experience. And I've said that to a lot of students. They'll have a lot more experience, insight, expertise to offer than they think they do. Just because you're new to the online world or looking into being an online business manager or any kind of this world, you have a lot more to offer. So don't think you are behind the gate. You're probably in the right spot. The fact that you're asking that question is the first thing. Seek and ask questions. So just reach out to
Find a good community.
Yeah, community. Yeah.
What's really led to your success as an OBM?
Yeah, probably community, because you could be in business. I always say this. Just because you're in business by yourself, you don't have to be in business for yourself. For yourself, you don't have to be in business by yourself, right? Like, you run your own business.
Just full of a wealth of little nuggets today, aren't you?
I'm loving these.
Yeah, yeah, because like we don't have to go through it alone.
Yeah.
Because there's somebody or a group of people that has either gone through it before, if not the exact same thing, something very similar that we could talk you through it. Either going through it right now that you can go through it together, or about to, that when you're going through it, you could be that guide. And sometimes you'll learn actually more when you're leading someone.
Yeah.
You actually learn more than when you're actually going through it. So just ask questions, find people, ask questions. Some people, there'll be a lot more people out there willing to give you support and answer your questions and reach out to you than we think. You're like, oh, they're too busy, or like, oh, they probably won't answer my question.
Yeah, people want to pay it forward. I mean, that's why I got into this.
I've gotten strangers I got a girl the other day from Australia. I got like New Zealand, just like found me on LinkedIn and like, hey, can you blah, blah, blah. And like we chatted for like, a little bit. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Actually, ask questions.
Ask questions.
That's like the best.
Challenge yourself to ask questions.
Challenge yourself to ask questions. There will be there's at least one person in this world that will help you, guide you along the way. And the fact that you're asking the questions, it's like they say, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. It's interesting, when I was ready, all the resources just started finding themselves, like finding their way to me, like Google searches, like it's a weird thing. Like, so when you ask the question, things just start showing up in your world. I don't know if that's
because there's this like kind of concept of manifesting.
Yeah, like you're manifesting it.
And
like,
I'm a little bit woo, but most of what I feel about that is like, oh, so you're clear on what you want. You have clarity around what you want.
I think once you make the decision, the answers start to show up, or at least
just like you had mentioned about that, making fast action, taking messy action.
Exactly.
Yeah, and my first client just called me. Well, actually, she texted me at 5:30 in the morning because she's a very early riser, and she was in for a walk, and she's like, "Oh, who am I going to get to help me do this?" And we talked before about stuff, and she knew that I was off, so she's like, "Oh, of course, Gillian," because it was a marketing thing. So I was brought on to launch a product, and now I'm the marketing director / operations manager for her company.
Well, so what would be your main piece of advice?
I would say leverage your network.
Oh yeah,
that's always mine, because well, definitely for me, I was 21 years in corporate, well, as much as you can call advertising world corporate, but I met a lot of people. It's always like, build your LinkedIn, LinkedIn everybody you meet.
Right.
Yeah, why not, right? Because the third degree sort of scenario with LinkedIn. But I was actually kind of shocked that you were surprised, or when I said I'm going to email every single person I know, and you were like, wow, not a lot of people do that.
Right.
So I built an email list. I took my personal email contacts, I took my business email contacts, I merged and purged, and I sent close to 1,000 emails.
And what was the result of
telling
that?
people? It was great. It was kind of funny. The people I didn't expect to reply replied.
Really?
Yeah, and the people I did expect to reply didn't reply. But they replied in a different way. I'd get like Facebook messages or stuff like that. But yeah, I was just saying, this is what I'm doing now. This is my situation. This is, here's my website. Check it out. And, you guys know me in some way, shape, or form, either personally or through business, and you know my capabilities, and this is what I'm doing. I'd love it if you would, spread the word and, refer me.
Yeah.
So every client I've had has been through a referral, a personal relationship, or I've met through, say, like a local networking dinner or group or something like that.
Yeah, so putting yourself out there is really where it's at.
So relationships have always been key.
Relationships have
for
always
me.
been
Like
key,
I'm still talking to people that I worked with in the late 90s. I was invited to the Collision conference, and that was, again, I'd given her a Collision conference ticket when I had free tickets, and she had a ticket, so she gave me a Collision conference ticket. We met up at Collision, and I saw Neil Patel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
I love Neil Patel.
I think I emailed them to get the presentation. I was like, this is amazing.
I love it. Well, thank you guys for spending some time talking to us about what it means to be an OBM, how being an OBM has really changed your life, and hopefully this will inspire more people to sort of take the less pretty walk through life and become an entrepreneur so that we can have this kind of meaning in our lives. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Oh man.
And
That was great, guys.